They walk among us, men with no thunder in their step, no weight in their presence. Their words are hollow, their eyes dim, their souls tranquilized. They are polite, palatable, pliable, but they are not powerful. You see them daily, heads down, posture collapsed, spirits sedated. They're not living, they're complying. They've mistaken submission for virtue and comfort for purpose. Their instincts are not dead, only buried under decades of programming, pixels, and propaganda. This wasn't an accident, it was a blueprint. Society didn't stumble into this condition. It was crafted slowly and subtly over generations. The process wasn't loud. It didn't need to be, because if you want to control men, you don't need chains. You just need convenience. If you want to kill the fire inside them, you don't need war. You just need Wi-Fi and processed food. Today, men aren't raised, they're rendered, mass-produced in institutions that call themselves schools but behave more like factories. They're taught to sit still, stay quiet, and never question. Strength is a threat, independence is a flaw, ambition is offensive. They're praised for their obedience, not their courage, rewarded for being agreeable, not original. And in that silence, that comfort, they decay. A man without edge is a man without essence. But that's what the system wants, not wolves, sheep, not leaders, followers, not voices, echoes. Because the more passive the man, the more profitable the consumer. The more disconnected he is from himself, the easier it is to sell him a purpose, an identity, a dream. The system doesn't want you to know who you are. It wants to sell you a version that fits their agenda. And so, we find ourselves surrounded by sleepwalkers, men who have traded conviction for convenience, who can't sit in a room alone without reaching for a screen, who can't disagree without apologizing, who fear standing out more than being forgotten. They are harmless, they are pleasant, and they are absolutely powerless. But here's the secret they never told you: power is not taken, it is remembered. Strength is not built, it is reclaimed. You were never meant to be soft. You were never meant to live in fear of your own instincts. The fire in your blood was not placed there by mistake. It was a gift. But that gift has been buried beneath years of shame and seduction. Seduction not of the body, but of the soul. Seduction into mediocrity. You were born to defy, not comply. You were meant to roar, not whisper. But first you must wake up to the lies, wake up to the comforts disguised as chains, wake up to the fact that you were trained to serve a world that profits from your silence, that profits from your doubt, that grows fat on your weakness. The modern man is not lost by nature, he is lost by design. You weren't born confused, they confused you. You weren't born weak, they weakened you, and now they applaud your sensitivity while mocking your strength. They glorify passivity while punishing courage. The most dangerous lie isn't that masculinity is evil, it's that it's unnecessary. Every headline, every algorithm, every institution whispers the same message: stay small, stay safe, stay soft. But no man ever built an empire by staying safe. No warrior ever forged his name into legend by staying soft. And yet, that's the model, that's the mold. Smile more, speak less. Apologize for your power, and if you feel a fire inside you, smother it, numb it, medicate it, and call that peace. But that isn't peace, it's sedation, it's spiritual anesthesia. Real peace doesn't come from suppressing your power. It comes from mastering it. Peace isn't the absence of fire, it's the control of it. But control requires confrontation, and modern men are trained to avoid confrontation like it's a disease. They would rather compromise than conflict. They would rather disappear than dominate, and so they shrink every day, bit by bit. It begins with hesitation, then avoidance, then apology, and soon they don't remember what it felt like to stand tall, to speak with conviction, to act with authority, because every moment they choose comfort over courage, they lose a part of themselves until they're nothing but a shell, pleasant, polite, and powerless. You rebel, not with noise but with silence, not with violence but with precision. You start by saying no, not to others but to yourself, no to excuses, no to indulgence, no to softness. You reclaim your mornings. You take back your body. You command your mind. You strip away the layers of societal makeup until only the raw, unapologetic man remains. This path is not easy. It's brutal. You will be misunderstood. Hated, feared. They will call you dangerous, and they'll be right, because a man who knows himself is dangerous. A man who refuses to kneel is dangerous. A man who embraces his shadow instead of denying it cannot be manipulated, cannot be marketed to, cannot be silenced. They cannot control a man who is in control of himself, and so the war continues, but not in the streets, in the mind, in the home, in the heart of every man who feels the emptiness, the hunger, the rage. Not anger at others, rage at himself, at the version of him he allowed to exist for far too long. The version that said yes too much, that stood still too often, that settled too quickly. But that version can die. And it must for something stronger to rise, something colder, sharper, a man forged in solitude, refined through suffering, hardened by discipline, not the man society wants, but the man it fears, because when one man rises, others notice. When one man rejects the narrative, others question it. When one man refuses to bow, others stand, and that more than any revolution or uprising is what terrifies the rulers of this world, influence. Not through position, but through presence, not through status, but through soul. They cannot erase that. They cannot ban that. All they can do is distract you from ever finding it, and so they offer endless pleasures. Infinite distractions, constant validation, so you never sit still long enough to hear the truth whispering from deep inside you. But if you do, if you listen, you'll hear it, the voice that says, "This isn't who you are. This isn't what you were born to be." And that voice will not shout. It will not beg. It will wait until you're ready to stop playing the role you were assigned and start becoming the man you were destined to be. That is the path, and it's not paved, it's carved with blood, sweat, and silence. You walk it alone, but not aimlessly. You walk it with a blade in your hand and clarity in your mind, because the time of weakness is over. The age of permission is dead. You do not need approval to reclaim your fire. You need action. The world has enough followers, enough slaves, enough domesticated minds. What it needs, what it aches for, is men who remember, men who resist, men who rise, so rise, not with noise, but with intention. Not to please, but to lead. You are not here to fit in. You are here to break the mold, to build a new standard, a new code, one forged in fire and followed with fury. But if you've made it this far, if your heart is still beating with the rhythm of resistance, then you're already ahead of most. Because most have already surrendered. They've let the system teach them what to want, how to feel, who to be. They've traded their instincts for instructions, their fire for formulas, their path for a cage dressed up as comfort. And while they call it progress, deep down they know it's prison, not made of bars but of expectations, of endless scrolling, of polite, neutered language and hollow smiles. They no longer chase meaning, they chase distraction. They fill their time with noise to silence the ache that never leaves, the ache that whispers, "You were meant for more," and you were never meant to be domesticated. You were never meant to live a life approved by committee. You were never meant to die a slow, painless death buried under routine, Netflix, and artificial pleasure. You were meant to wake up every day with an enemy to crush, a boundary to push, a purpose to fulfill. But those things require discomfort, friction, challenge, and those are precisely the things modern systems have trained you to fear. You've been taught that peace is the absence of tension, but real peace, the kind that fills your lungs and steadies your hands, only comes after war. After conquest, after proving to yourself that you are capable of standing alone against the storm. They don't want you to know this. They don't want you to wake up, because if you do, if you remember who you were before they softened you, then you become dangerous. Not because you'll hurt people, but because you'll stop obeying, you'll stop shrinking, you'll stop playing a game that was rigged from the start, and a man who stops playing can't be controlled. That's the secret no one tells you. Freedom isn't granted. It's taken, earned, built with blood, resolve, and the kind of discipline that scares the weak and threatens the powerful. That's why the war is fought inside your mind, not on some battlefield, because if they can get you to believe you're small, then you'll never try to grow. If they convince you your strength is toxic, then you'll never develop it. If they make you ashamed of your drive, your edge, your masculine fire, then they've already won, because a man who doubts himself will never lead. He'll wait, he'll ask, he'll beg, he'll follow, and he'll call it virtue. But there is no virtue in passivity. There is no honor in obedience to a broken culture. There is no greatness in avoiding offense at the cost of truth. Strength has never come from consensus. It comes from courage, from standing firm when everyone else kneels, from being willing to offend, to be disliked, to be misunderstood. Because true power isn't about control over others. It's about control over yourself, and that is the one thing they fear most. A man who cannot be bought, distracted, or seduced into surrender. You want to be that man, then it starts now. No more waiting. No more watching other men live the life you were born for. Build your body like it's your armor. Train your mind like it's your weapon. Sharpen your words until silence becomes your most dangerous sentence. Discipline is not punishment, it is self-respect. It's how you declare to the world and to yourself that you are not here to be average, you are not here to blend in, you are here to break the mold, and in doing so, you will offend every man who chose comfort over courage. You must understand, comfort is the enemy. It dulls you, softens your instincts, makes you forget what it feels like to earn your rest, to deserve your victories. Comfort is the sedative of kings who have forgotten their crowns. The moment you stop seeking challenge, you start dying, slowly, quietly, internally, and one day you wake up a stranger in your own skin, wondering how you got so far from the man you promised yourself you'd become. But there is a way back, always, because the fire never dies. It just gets buried under fear, failure, rejection. But if you dig, if you burn away the layers of weakness that were never yours to begin with, you will find him again. The man inside, the one who doesn't beg, who doesn't apologize for being powerful, for being relentless, for taking up space. That man is waiting. He's angry. He's starving. And the world is not ready for what happens when he returns. So stop apologizing for your ambition, for your focus, for your desire to rise. You owe no one your compliance. Your life is not a canvas for other people's comfort. It is a battlefield for your own potential. And every second you waste seeking approval is a second you betray the war within. They will call you arrogant. Let them. They will call you extreme. Wear it. Because nothing great was ever built by the balanced and the boring. Power requires obsession. Discipline demands sacrifice. And legacy is carved by those who are willing to suffer for what they believe in. You were told that suffering is something to avoid. That struggle means you're doing something wrong. But the truth is, struggle is proof that you're alive, that you're trying, that you're not another lifeless drone being slowly swallowed by comfort. The man who suffers with purpose is the man who walks with power. Because he knows pain doesn't destroy, it refines. Fire doesn't just burn, it purifies. And if you are willing to walk through it, to face it head on without flinching, you will emerge with something they cannot take from you: identity. Do you know what it means to be fully yourself in a world that constantly pressures you to shrink? It means being hated, feared, admired. It means becoming a mirror, one that reflects back to others everything they're not willing to be. And that's why they'll resent you, not because you did something wrong, but because you remind them of everything they gave up on. You force them to confront their own cowardice, and that is something weak men cannot stand. So be hated, be controversial, be undeniable. Let your strength unsettle the soft. Let your presence command the room without a word. Let your silence speak louder than their noise. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs signal. It needs structure. It needs men who have faced themselves in silence and emerged with purpose carved into their bones. And purpose is not something you find by accident. It's not in a book. It's not in a podcast. It's in your daily choices. It's in the resistance, in the repetition, in the refusal to quit when every part of you wants to. Purpose is built, not gifted, and once you have it, you stop looking outward for meaning. You become the meaning, you become the example, the standard, the fire others gather around when the cold of mediocrity becomes too much to bear. But fire burns, that's the trade. When you walk this path, people will try to dim your light because it reveals their darkness. They'll call you names, isolate you, try to tame you, let them try. A lion does not lose sleep over the opinions of sheep. You were not built to be liked. You were built to lead, to conquer, to leave behind a legacy forged in truth, not approval. So rise, no more waiting, no more begging. You've been given everything you need. The blood, the mind, the will. You are not a mistake. You are not broken. You are simply unfinished. And now that you see the system for what it is, a machine built to neuter men like you, it is your duty to rebel. Not with chaos, but with clarity, with purpose, with ruthless discipline. You do not need permission. You do not need acceptance. You need one thing, commitment, a promise to yourself that you will no longer play small, that you will rise every time you fall, that you will no longer be part of the herd, but the one who breaks it, because the world doesn't change through comfort. It changes when one man, fed up with being told what to be, chooses to become what he was always meant to be.